Even though I pursued my degree in other things, food always sort of called me back. And it was always the thing that I layered in with the, quote, professional job to keep me
Yeah.
happy. And the answer always, like my next question is like, tell me why this is the meal. And it always connects to their childhood. But at the end of the day, the way people really want to be cared for by a personal chef is by somebody who's thoughtful, who will make good, real food for their family.
Looking for real stories of real people making a difference in the Grand Canyon State? Welcome to Finding Arizona podcast. We sit down with Arizona's inspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and community leaders and give you a front row seat to their journeys, passions, and projects. Whether you're a local trying to find a hidden gem or just enjoy watching someone chase their dreams, Finding Arizona is your go-to place for authentic conversations with a desert twist. New episodes drop weekly, so hit subscribe and start exploring Arizona one story at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and as always, we bring in fantastic guests every week, and today's no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce Janice here, and she is the founder of Tiny Spoon Chef. Thank you, Janice, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, as you could probably tell from the name of the company, we are going to be getting into a little bit of the culinary arts. And one of the things that I ask everyone is give us a little bit of your origin story. I know just from you doing research in your background, food means a lot to you. So, if you could enlighten us on how it's affected your life up until now, please do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, food is really the great connector. I think that's the thing that I've loved the most is that whenever there's a gathering, I'm from a huge family. Whenever there was a gathering, it was who's bringing this and who's bringing that, and how are we creating this great community of space together? And so for me, when it comes to celebrating and it comes to grieving and marking moments and holidays, that was really always kind of how things came together. So
Yeah.
I was always the person who just kind of hosted and was a part of that as I grew into my adult years.
Yeah.
Even though I pursued my degree in other things, food always sort of called me back. And it was always the thing that I layered in with the, quote, professional job to keep me happy. And after a while, I just surrendered and said, you know what, this is the thing that really just lights me up inside.
Yeah. One of the things that I find most remarkable about storytelling is just again, when I ask this question about like how the look back into their history of life and to me it's finding the roots of the tree I like to call it. But for others it's a kind of a process of like, oh, I've never really thought about it or oh, this is a personal thing and like it for you it just sounded like it has always been a very pivotal point, not only for you, but your family as well. So I would love to just kind of ask, well, what relationship between you, your mother, and your grandmother, and what was that like? Because I imagine from, just my own perspective of like my own mother and how she got recipes from her mother and therefore so on and so forth. But I also from the fact is like it could not have been from your mother. It could have been from your father, who's like, again, I've met male, whose love for grilling and other food items has also been kind of ripple effect down to their kids. So I would love to just understand a little bit more of that relationship between your nuclear family and then those extended family members.
Yeah. So my mother is Korean, born and raised in
Yeah.
Korea. And so, but she's the only connection I had to my Korean heritage. So everybody else that I refer to as family is from my father's side. So I was born and raised here in the US.
Okay.
So for as far as my mom's side, it was really growing up. I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but growing up and having traditional foods that
Yeah.
were normal for me. And I didn't realize until I went to school with a lunchbox that were unusual to other kids. It was at
Exactly.
one point I was begging her for like a ham and cheese sandwich, like, please just give me something normal.
Yeah.
Um, but I grew up with a really interesting food context and
Yeah.
generationally, I think for me, I never learned to speak Korean. My mom just didn't have that disposition,
Yeah.
but I observed and I threw the right kind of chili flakes by the texture, by the way things look. So bring me to a Korean market and I can struggle through by looking at
Yeah.
things. And of course, now you can translate and it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I had this great context from her side that I just kind of learned by being in the kitchen with her.
Mhm.
And then on my dad's side, my My, paternal grandmother is,
Mm.
97, and
Wow.
it was amazing. My dad was one of 7, my late father,
Oh,
and we just had a really kinda traditional Americana upbringing that I think I usually now, where every Sunday, especially in the summer, we had a family lake house, this, like, little camp, and we would get together, and it was just these big holidays, but it
I
was
love that.
really normal stuff like,
Yeah.
grilled chicken and corn on the cob and watermelon and,
For sure, but still, the cultural aspects of the Americana is foundational almost to some of that upbringing. So I w you brought a lot to the table, so I want to give some of myself to it as well, and that's how I feel about this conversation. So my father's Puerto Rican and my mother is Hopi from a native tribe here in Arizona. And one of the things that I grew up around was again that kind of that lifestyle of like my my group, the people that I call family, which are extended to my father's friends from high school who grew up around my family. It was that culture of like Puerto Ricans tend to use the same kind of similar recipes, and the fact that it's just a cultural thing that they've learned through the islands, and that's what they were using and kind of procuring into not only what they how they cook, but what they basically the culture behind it as well. So it's like a lot of family cooking meals, a lot of long, um, rice bowls that are like shared with one another. And for my mother's side, it is very different in the but it's still this beautiful long I feel like it's a longer dinner where you're stretching out conversations and storytelling and having more of a in-depth long dinner to help, just really make it seem more of a it's a learning process of like culture. It's like you learn the stories through the eating. And so that is something that I've learned throughout my years of like visiting and being there and living there. Spending time with my grandparents. It's just really something that observational very much. If like you spend the summers out there, especially like you're very much observant of like the difference between how your grandmother cooks versus how your mother cooks. And I felt like when you brought up the Korean American side and with the Korean side, I grew up next to a family that was very much I couldn't tell you from the top of it of like whether it was Vietnamese or Korean or something, but what I did observe is that the way that they go about gardening and then bringing that kind of hand touch, kind of like very involved into the cooking as well. So, being neighbors, we just were very observant kids and watching them garden, taking the bok choy and making kimchi, fermenting outside, pickling outside. So I just was very much like observant of that lifestyle of the Eastern cultures of like, oh, they eat different than us, but that's okay. I know how they make because the neighbor would tell me, like, how she would do certain things, and so I was, a very observant kid, so it's just really was really fun to kinda recognize when other kids were, like, they would seem, like, a little hesitant, and I would sit next to them, and I'd be like, "Oh, I know what that is." Like, I would just really kinda give them I'm like, "Oh, did your mom or your grandmother plant that? Like, what did they do?" Like, just to make them feel like they could eat it in front of me. That is something that I was very proud of because when I was a kid, I was, like, nervous too about, like, my own lunches and bringing, my bag sandwiches and stuff like that. So I didn't I oriented towards the kids that felt that way because I felt the similar way, and I could easily enough relate to them because I knew a fact or a piece of information that I could connect with them on. So that was definitely, that. But, and then what we brought about on the American side is just again my parents being somewhat outside the culture of the Americana and wanting to give that to their children in the 80s and the 90s. So I was very much involved in like 4th of July parties and just block parties and understanding what that was like, hot dogs and, spending, spending Thanksgiving learning about pilgrims and the Eastern tribes of Native America, and it's just, again, it's definitely, something that you have to, I guess, for that time and that kind of growing up, it was just a part of growing up. So you're being involved in these kind of parties and cultural, block parties and things like that, that it's just you grow with it and you pick up on the food and the culture that goes along with it as well. So that all being said is I wanted to give you a little bit of my own kind of food and how I've taken it in all these years. So my growing up is, I would like to say, I empathetic to you because I feel somewhat connected on that level about the tendencies of what we eat can kind of feel obscure at times, especially when you're younger and you don't know. But as you grow into it, it is definitely a unique factor. It's different, and you feel more connected because you know the knowledge behind it and why it's used or why it's eaten this way.
Well, and there are so many other cultures too, like the 2
Mhm.
backgrounds that you're mentioning, that are so much more connected to the food, the process, the lore, the storytelling, and
Yeah.
for me, even, as this company has grown, I love to ask people who cook and who are passionate about food for a living, I love to ask them, in their interview process, like, when it's been a really bad week and somebody puts a dish in front of you or a meal in front
Mhm.
of you, it's gonna just make everything right, like, what is that meal?
Yeah.
And the answer always, like, my next question is like, "Tell me why this is the meal," and it always connects to their childhood because there's something really deep that happens.
Mhm.
It's like, "Oh, this was the thing when we didn't have anything at home, we always
Yeah.
had rice and we always had eggs, or we always had, like, a couple potatoes, we always had, some frozen,"
Yeah.
right? Like, and it becomes this moment of, like, it's healing on such a deep level, and so for me, um, the right food for the right person at the right time, it's about that kind of full circle, that kind of recognition, so I love
Yeah.
to hear about people's food stories.
Yeah, and it's just, again, you for me the stories are, again, the mixture of the fun and kind of the cultural, because there are moments that there are uniquely patterned to those specific cultures, because you wouldn't find either the ingredient nor the situational of like what they go through in that same premise, because those two are uniquely one another fitted for that situation. So I always like to say it's like you don't know what that person's going through because they're uniquely themselves as one, the individual, but two, the culture, what they, what they're taking in as well. So I give myself to those moments where I'm like in a new place. I definitely allowed myself to run the gamut on, like, when I was in my 20s, like, let me see what I could eat. Like, how much or different can I go off the deep end? So I went down a real rabbit hole. I mean, again, I think you look at where I was in my 20s, I was here at ASU. Anthony Bourdain was like the cool guy that has had like his TV show. And so he was doing the same thing. So it was like that sort of thing was very, entertainment factor, cultural thing where it's like, that's what you wanted to experience, like the way that he lived life or the way he saw certain things. So when I was in my 20s, I just again was like, how can I find these different places, especially here in a city that is a melting pot, and I find it very uniquely suited because I, one, was like very much a curious fella and was finding these different cultural spots throughout the city, to eat and to experience. But two, it was just kind of a very, very much opening my life to certain kinds of people of like all shapes and sizes as well, because I'm trying to learn very much through the process. And it was great. There's so many places I love to tell people about the city and just try this and give it a shot. It may look strange, but I mean, one of the things that stands out, especially here in the state of Arizona, is the prickly pear. And that's one ingredient that's uniquely here in the state that is utilized in different shapes and formations of it, like from jelly to juices to I think that some people kind of like grill them, and it's just again you have only this thing that grows in this region, but on top of that, like people want to try it in different forms so that they can make those different flavor palettes.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
So I would love to kind of kind of embrace you from this business side and just kind of ask you uniquely from the very first moment that you kind of had that aha moment of like Tiny Spoon being a business. What was the kind of moment, the aha factor for you? And then also on top of that, it's like, how how do you start generating momentum after that? It's like, was it a big aha moment or did it just kind of spill over?
Yeah. So, it actually came from a really terrible feeling, which is a funny place to start, but
Yeah.
I was working for another chef, and she was kind of slowing down creatively. Her daughter was really young, and she said, "I just want to be home more with my daughter at night." And I'd done a ton of growth for her, and so I started taking on a couple personal chef clients just to be creative and have some fun and to kinda keep my foot in kind of this growth mindset.
Yeah.
And when I started doing this work, I said, "Oh my gosh, there are so many chefs who I've known over the years who have such small lives." Because when you love food, it's a thankless hours and wages and all this stuff, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I feel so guilty." Because I found something that feels really good. I mean, people are baseline just thrilled that you showed up.
Yeah.
Thrilled that you showed up to throw some energy at the chaos of their lives. And so I just thought, wow, well, I need to share this. I felt really compelled to share it, first of all. And so when I hired my first chef and my second chef, then I thought, well, could I be a great employer? Could I figure out how to do this benefits thing? Could I figure out how to really carve an interesting niche where we're advocating for the chefs, we're creating something great for the clients, but it's really this very give and take relationship that feels very respectful from both sides. And so,
Yeah.
um, what was really interesting was for the first 8 years of the business, we never paid for any advertising or marketing. It was just a word of mouth company, and I'm really proud of that, and I love to tell people that because I think there's so much information out there that says you have to get ready, you have to have all this investment to make something happen. And the
Yeah.
truth is, when you just really refocus on every person you meet who loves what you do is an advocate for you, and whenever anybody gave us a compliment, was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." I was like, "Great." You know what's so appreciated is if you just tell a few people. Just
Yeah.
tell a few people that
Yeah.
this is great, and I would love that forever. And, we grew so much just from that capturing that energy and just
Yeah.
being really sincere and saying, "If this meant something to you, I'm so thankful, but just tell somebody else who is losing their mind."
Yeah.
Who
We
needs
were
to feel
and
food.
that's I mean, my motto is exactly that where I started this with the sole intention. It's never been about me. It's never been about like what it's me like I'm the face of this, but really I solely intended it to be about you, the entrepreneur, and I'm just kind of in the background. And really it's great when people show appreciation to us and give us compliments. But really, I go back to like, yeah, thank you so much. It's about these people. Please give them all of your. If you like someone, really truly give them a like on social media. Tell them that you appreciate their story. Do whatever you can. If you buy something, cool. That's even better. That's the cherry on top of the cake. But to me, I would rather you tell them, not me, how much you love this episode. And so for a lot of the times, we do get that because we do hear back from the people of like who've come in and like, oh yeah, we get people who come in and they said they heard the episode and stuff like that. And that brings me the most joy. I'm like, cool, that's great. I'm so glad that that happened. And that makes me feel so much better because again, it's them who's getting the notoriety and the involvement and stuff like that. I'm just the cheerleader of like, hey, look at this cool person, and I think they're awesome and stuff like that. So it is again solely. I love the fact when a founder who believes that um, you can provide something, but it's not really about you. It's about the kind of community that you bring in and involve yourself with. I think that's really what a lot of these entrepreneurs that have success, I see a lot more of these days. So I think you have a good head on your shoulders, and I know that you're going to go in the right directions from it. Uh, Absolutely. As you grow and evolve into a bigger market, I would love to understand how you're approaching your culture of your team and getting these new chefs involved and making sure that they provide what you're looking for. So I'd love to understand at least how you approach getting someone else involved or getting a new chef involved or extending or kind of branching out from this point forward.
Yeah, well, so for the first 7 years we were here in Boston, which is where I founded the company, and we've been in Arizona now for over half a year, and it's been
Nice.
amazing, and we're in 15 different states, and I'm so proud of the remarkable lives that we get to support, both
Awesome.
on the client side and also on the internal side. We have amazing chefs and administrators, and what's really interesting is I Jose, there's things that I'm really good at, and I can own that, and there are things that I'm really not good at.
It's
So
perfectly fine. I'm very much situated in the same process of like I'm good at the techie and the this stuff, the creative elements. The yin to my yang is my wonderful producing partner and wife. She is the business element and the financials of like making this ship viable. Like it's just she is when I tell her all the time, if it's not a that's my son right there. He just waved in the back. I tell her all the time is like, "Gi give me a graph that points up. If you show me a graph that points up, I'm happy. If it's, numbers and we're, like, trying to figure out stuff, I'm like, I it just it makes me sweat in unprofusely, and it just gives me the hives."
Yep. Yep. So years ago, I hired the vice president of my company, and his name is Jared, and he's great. And
Wonderful.
with him and my director of culinary, Matt, and my assistant director of culinary, we've put a whole structure in place. And we have a young woman, Lenora, who does our online education systems, and we have Mandy, who does our program development. We have a nutritionist. We have a whole team of amazing people.
It's awesome.
And I think when it comes to really understanding the flow of tribal information,
Mhm.
it really comes down to figuring out what your North Star is, right? And figuring out how to make sure that people feel invested and aligned with, like, first is finding the right people that are invested and aligned, but also communicating this early and often. And one of the things that Jared put in place was we do a company wide call every week,
Nice.
and I would close out in company culture and talk about, what makes us different? What is decidedly Tiny Spoon Chef? And I would say at first it felt so weird because the personality of the company, the personality of the brand really is me, just kind of magnified. And so it felt
Yeah.
a little bit like, oh, really? Is this really necessary? And fast forward to we're in our 13th year.
Mhm.
And now the company culture is all around me. And you hear it emanated back from all of the different chefs, from Chef Jacqueline in New York and from, Chef Brian in Chicago and from Chef Caitlin in, Miami. And that's what's really, really amazing is the way that they want to support each other and the community that they've created from
Awesome.
city to city, the curiosity, the collaboration that they have with one another. Chef Bernadette in New York, like they're all amazing. And I think it comes down to really being proud of who we are
Mhm.
and to holding each other accountable and being proud of being shoulder to shoulder. So
Yeah.
they all know that when they succeed, when one person succeeds, it's a nod like across the board for the whole team.
Yeah.
But also when we're interviewing someone, staging them, training them, I always say, like, if you're feeling like something isn't quite there, like, I want to know because this is a person who's also going to create your reputation and your standard. Is it something that was not clear in the training process that we need to make more clear and more transparent? Because I also believe every single person wants to do well.
Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah.
So if they're not hitting that mark, is it a lack of clarity? Is it a lack of ability? Is it something we can teach, something that we can train? So we come at it from that standpoint,
Yeah.
which is really new for a lot of the people who come to us. They've come to us from these like toxic kind of critical backgrounds and we're like, "Nope, we're just here to like make you shine and help you figure it out." And it's been a really great process of watching. of watching it unfold. Kind of
Yeah, that's awesome.
scales, yeah.
I love that because again, from that perspective of like you're just trying to really make them better and they just have to follow like trust the process.
Yeah.
And the I really do think that you have a good sense of direction when it comes to the the training process and getting the everyone into just level par with one another as a teammate and making sure everyone is involved and everyone has an opportunity to succeed at a very high potential. So that's really great. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. It's like from the past year and a half, what have you learned most from Arizona?
Hmm. I think Arizona is an interesting state because, I think what we're learning the most in Arizona is, the different personalities of the different seasons.
Mhm.
We're starting to
Yes.
learn, right? That there's, like, a
Yes.
different kind of mobility and
Yep.
personality based on seasons.
Yep.
We have an alignment with a lot of the sports teams and spring training and stuff like that, which
Nice.
we push. So we work with Major League Baseball and we work with some of kind of the sports stuff out there, which is a quick sort of hit. And then what is it like to connect with the residential kind of market out there, which is more of what we do business with,
Yeah.
and do people like leave in the summertime? And so every market's a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah.
I love the vibe there. I love the farmers markets, the curiosity, the inspiration. I'm a great eater. So anytime I go
I can
anywhere.
imagine. I mean, I imagine you've run the like, just have had your slew of, like for I don't even know have you tried, what is it called? Gastronomy?
I have not been there, no.
Okay, so it's like it's the type of cooking that's like the
Oh, I thought it
smell
was a
the
place that
no, 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 no. It's like that it's a type of cooking where it's like that,
yep.
the science-based where it's like a lot of infused yeah, so I've never tried it myself. It's just very interesting from like that form factor of like bringing in science and food.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and between different cities, I feel like there are several places in Chicago that I've been to eat that are more like this, and some are kind of, even take it to an experiential level of, like, we're gonna move you from room to room, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be a different physical environment, and we've seen so much change in the trends of food, right? Thinking about, "Oh, I wanna go for, 15 courses and this kind of thing," to then the small plate sort of evolution from dining out, and what's really interesting for me is our chefs have such different backgrounds, right? Some of them are classically trained, some are great chefs who've worked up in the ranks and just always kind of been passionate about it, but have great experience, and it would be silly for them to go to culinary school now.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is, like, when clients call and wanna have a conversation, we always wanna tell them who the chef is and say, "Oh, they worked at this place, they worked at that place." But at the end of the day, the way people really want to be cared for by a personal chef is by somebody who's thoughtful, who will make
Mhm.
good, real food for their family. So
Awesome.
most of the time what we hear is like, "Oh, yeah, 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 like, I hear that they can do fancy stuff, but can they do" sometimes you'll hear things like, "But can they do chicken fingers for my kids?" It's like, yes, they can also make chicken fingers. They can also make, like, falafel. They can also do, like
They're not they're the yeah, they have the techniques to give
right,
you
right,
5 star.
right.
Don't have to use them that way.
Exactly. They're not gonna make olive oil foams for you, like, or like some crazy, I don't know, they're not gonna make you blue cheese ice cream
Yeah, yeah.
or we could make you real food that just feels really good and is
Yeah,
interesting and
that's
complex,
awesome.
but lots of fresh flavors and food that makes you feel good and energized, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a funny it's nice to know they can flex that muscle if you want
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
right? They've got the chops to do it, but when it comes to how you or I want to eat most of the time, it's something that is just a little bit comforting, but also feels really good.
Well, I think that's wonderful because again, we as an audience and as just individuals when it comes to our own personal like, appetites and how it's like we're not all fancy. Not all of us are refined tastes like that. So there's definitely the need for having just the homegrown, just really good, tastes good, feels good. It's having that type of cooking is always necessary. I now go into kind of this is the in the weeds sort of speak. I always like to get to know that sort of aspect of it. From the perspective of like this being a multi-state situation and you being so involved with your community and your culture of the team, I would love to understand how you felt during the pandemic of just having, you know, Zoom become more a thing, and, now how you utilize it too, because I imagine it was not so prevalent before, maybe more phone calls, maybe more one-on-one time, and then it started to become easier to get this kind of offline sort of, um check-in work where it's like you're checking in with your team. So I would love to just kind of understand how you're approaching a lot of this involvement, especially on a national scale. It just seems very I always like to look at it as it's very cool that you can make that happen. I would just love to understand maybe something that we wouldn't know behind the scenes that you're working with or trying to fix or streamline.
Yeah. You know, wow, COVID was so gripping in so many
Mhm.
ways, and I think for me, it taught me that I internally had so much more resilience than
Yeah.
I thought I did because in the beginning, I don't know how you felt, but it was like being so overstimulated. It was just like all this stuff kept it was like, "Okay, now I'm doing this. Now I'm dealing with that." Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
crap," you know? And so for me, because we're completely decentralized, I mean, in-person time will always be the best, and I do travel, and I get to see the chefs and the administrators and be together, and that's amazing, that will always be the best. But for us, often, the Zoom, the virtual meetings are the next best thing. So, for us, like, if we have to have a difficult conversation, if there's a meaningful connection to be made, the next best thing is to see somebody's face.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for us, we really love it, and it gives us an opportunity that's better than a regular phone call, that's better than an email, so we don't think twice to hop on and say, like, "Can I just throw a G chat up? Can we just," like a Google Meet or a Zoom, and so we really embrace it, and I think um, as we've grown the business as well, one of the things for me was when I had 7 employees versus over 70,
Mhm.
we built a structure where any associate can book a time with me whenever they want to have a video call.
Okay.
And so I have a calendar for them because I think access is really important, and I'm not interested in a company where people are like, "Oh, yeah, like, she comes to town once a year." What I don't know, like, something
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
They can talk to me whenever there's a challenge with, an elderly client or they have a client who, has a unique condition or something like that. So you do use it in a really open and transparent way, and I think it leads to a lot of comfort. And one of our tenets of the company as well is that we have uncomfortable conversations and not uncomfortable silences. And I think especially when you approach something that could seemingly feel disconnecting and you get to look at the person and say, "Hey, this felt a little weird. Like I just wanted to address it with you." It
Yeah.
gets comfortable in 2 seconds. So, I think we'd really embrace it in an interesting way that it's
Yeah.
just second nature to what we do, and it's an important tool that lets us feel connected. When I'm talking to someone in Arizona or I'm talking to someone in Nashville or I'm, talking to someone in Long Island, we are together as best we can be, and we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for the actual, like, having a drink together, we can still be together.
Absolutely. That's wonderful to hear that you provide that opportunity for that one-on-one face to or just being able to connect because I think that's something that all associates would want from their leadership is just to be able to say, like, I need to express my uncomfortability or at least express my concerns to someone who's influential and higher up and just have that opportunity to at least share my thoughts. So it's really great. W Here's the other thing. Now that you're becoming this really large fleet or bigger than you were before, I tend to see it from the perspective of like, I get it. This is what business comes to sometimes, where it's like when you start to take on more, the the challenge is steering the ship, as you say, where it's like, you have to get everyone to steer at the same time. So when decisions are made, you have to go about it slower than you would where if you were only a few of you, it would be a little bit faster and a little bit more. How are you taking on those challenges for yourself as a leader? And has it been fun or just has it been just challenging or what are the types of things that are you dealing with?
Yeah. I'm a really transparent person, Jose, and I'd love to tell you that the process has been, like, easy and great,
Mhm.
and I think the people who tell you that are just not telling the truth because it's really hard.
Yeah.
Um, my I believe in really good support. I have a business coach who has been with me since before COVID, and she serves as a resource for me and for, my company.
Yeah.
I have a mentor who's in the meditation and wellness space, and I have a therapist, and I'm really open about that because this is not a normal kind of life that an average person leads to wake up and think about the wellness and the viability for this many families.
Yes.
So I accept that that's a life that I've chosen and I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel very of service, but
Yeah.
I need support. Um, but I will call and cry to my VP and say, this is just so incredibly difficult. And I don't know
Yeah.
how I'm, kind of handling this or what the next problem is that we're going to be solving, right? Like there's a bunch of challenges along the way.
Yeah.
I think for me, I really believe in the energy of the universe. I really believe that when you make decisions based on humanity first, what's right for the client, what's right for the associate, and you lead with that, the rest of it comes. And so I've seen the viability of the company continue to be healthy. I've seen the alignment for when we need business. Like it just happens when your heart is in the right space. So I really believe in that as well.
Yeah.
I think
That's
agility. Oh, sorry, I didn't.
no, I was gonna say that's wonderful.
I just believe in it, and I think it takes a fair amount of trust, and also you have to learn to understand fear and have it be there, but not be the most important voice, right? Because you're always gonna feel like, "Oh, no, is this gonna work out?" And the answer is, it does work out if you're just calm about it and you're doing the right thing. It does. I've learned this.
Yeah.
Agility does fluctuate. It fluctuates a lot, and I think the process of what I found is the process of growing management and growing a structure means delegating down, and
Mhm.
somebody that you delegate down to is not gonna do something 100% the way you would do it.
Yeah.
But 85 or 90% is a win, um, and letting someone grow into a role and become empowered and try things and figure them out, figuring and trying things and figuring them out with the support, context, health of knowing that when they make a mistake, you're there to work through it with them,
Yeah.
um, is such a healthy environment to be part of, and that's the only kind of environment that I wanna be a part of. So there are times where that slows us down or it's like, "Oh, great, like, I wouldn't have done it that way," but now we get a moment to, like, learn and move forward, and really what it does is it creates longer term jobs where people know, we don't flog people for making mistakes, we know that that was not their intention, we know that they want to succeed, and when there's something that we need to correct and we lead with humanity and we say to X, Y, or Z person that happened to have a less than ideal outcome, right? Hey, we messed this up. And here's what we'd like to do to make this right. But I really want to understand how you need to feel in this situation. How are we going to correct this? There's so much space between human beings to just sort of the right kind of human beings. We don't work for just anyone. We don't work for huge egos or screamers or stuff like this. We work for really good people.
Yeah.
So our agility fluctuates from time to time. There are times when I will flat out say, "Oh, why is this taking so long? What are we doing? What is our process? Why is it taking a week to do this when it should take 2 days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we have faster conversations happening?" And technology comes into play a lot as you scale a company in order to stay lean administratively so that we can pay our staff as well as we do. It's really and you're mentioning that you're like a technology person. It's really understanding like what are the workflows and the triggers? Like how could we
Mhm.
have had this chain happen a little bit faster. And then it's an opportunity to just sort of tighten it up and say, okay, well, the next time, here's what we've learned about this communication. Here's how it has to happen better. So, in the times when the agility isn't there, oh, it's a little painful and we learn from it, but we also can't linger there too long or you just feel terrible for like what a week. Like, what's the point?
I think it's healthy, and I think it makes sense, the process that you're going through, and just again, it just all in all, the fact that you are giving the opportunity to say, "Hey, look, we know that you didn't mean to do it this way, but let's
Right.
learn it together so that we can show everyone how to do it the right way, and we're all on the same page at this and happy and successful going that way forward." So that was definitely, I think that's how it should be done on all businesses. So it's really wonderful to hear that coming from the owner. And just again, I do this podcast to really highlight and show people it's like, hey, these owners are people too. They get it. And they give them the opportunity to share how they believe in the process of business and how they go forward with it. And if you are in line with that, great. That's wonderful. And I feel more often than not, I'm in line with a lot of these entrepreneurs and business owners because of how much they believe in this process or how much they believe in what they're putting out there. So I this is just again another one of like I everything that you're saying, it speaks to me, and I want to go about my own business the same way. So when that is in line, I think we're good to go, Janice. And so this is where I like to kind of pivot towards the future. Is there anything that you're looking forward to with the Tiny Spoon? And I want to know a little bit more about like, things that you're looking for the next couple of years. If there's a high and mighty goal that you want to give our audience an opportunity to challenge themselves to help you with, I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of great things that we're working on. So this year we released a new kind of service. So for 12 years, we basically you could have a personal chef's time, and we curate uniquely for you and your household, and we make it work. But this year we have a nutritionist developed offering, and so it's based on macro, micro, phytonutrients. It's good for brain, gut health. It's good for your body's resiliency, your anti-inflammatory response. Like, it's a great, great product,
Yeah,
and it's individually portioned. It comes with full macros. It's awesome. And so that's a new program that we've been building out. But we're also doing more and more work with pro athletes, both national kind of pro athletes, but also in the high school and collegiate space, which has been really fun. And
that's really fun. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and
That's
working with, NFL players too that are, like,
yeah.
trying to get drafted, and so a couple bigger companies with that, which is really fun.
I and just let me just go into because this is kind of a very unique the way that you're bringing about this. It's a unique opportunity in the fact that you get to see them all the way through the system, which is early student collegiate years, and then all the way now that you're speaking up into the draft and into actual professional career. I just wanna highlight just the fact is, like, you have an opportunity to really hone in on the nutritional and kind of benefits, the phytonutrient factor of, like, "Look,
Mhm.
we touch you athletically at all scales and size, so we'll" like, you can, again, just kinda this is a you probably already thought about this, but, like, the idea of, like, "Hey, look, we will orient your intake so that your athletic, is into that process. And as you grow, the
Right.
the uniqueness and the food that you're given will kind of help you along the way, and we will show you from start to finish your all the things that you brought into your body and how it's benefiting. You have the opportunity here to really kind of show an athletic lifetime of nutrition.
Yeah.
That's that's like I think that's a very unique opportunity because it's again, when we look at longevity, and that's something that is a new kind of thing for people in the world of cosmetics, food, all the different industries. Longevity has become a new unique form factor, and I think the one thing that we're missing out on a lot of the time is the the kind of lifeline, the longevity part is like looking at something through the lens of a longer scope rather than a shorter scope of time. And I think food and nutrition should be looked at that when you're looking at the idea of longevity. So you have an opportunity here because that's really cool that you have that. You're given the opportunity to challenge yourself from beginning to the end. So that's really cool.
Our my very first client was someone who came to me with terminal cancer and wanted support journey. And so we work with Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, we work with Mass General Hospital here in Boston, we work with Tampa Well down in Tampa with their wellness center. We work with a lot of different hospitals, and so we do a lot of different specialized care too for people with Hashimoto's and ulcerative colitis, all this kind of stuff. And the reality is, Jose, like, we're all eating as though our life depends on it because it does.
Yeah.
We just don't think about it until there's a moment. And so whether somebody's an athlete or whether somebody is just trying to break through to some kind of next level of wellness or muscle development or something like that, so many people who are working so hard, like going through the motions, but not seeing the results because
Mhm.
they're door dashing or they're right, because their priority is also their job or their kids or
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
priorities can't just be the one thing. So this is a way that people can also delegate and say, "Hey, somebody else can take the helm of this." It's for my generation, for our generation, I don't know about you, but my parents, I had friends whose parents had housekeepers, and we never did. And it was just not something that I could wrap my mind around, right?
Mhm.
But now that's very much like the vernacular of how people with busy households get through, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a new context for a lot of us too, is like a personal chef. That sounds so fancy. Like, who would have that? We charge the same amount for a pro athlete as we do for like
Yeah.
Tom Brady, somebody who's like super famous is gonna have a private chef, is gonna have a full-time person. This
Yes.
is something that, business people can afford so
Yep.
that they get to have an experience of a supported life.
Yeah.
They get to
I
eat the right things and feel great.
It's just really it's so easy enough to be like, look, you put a you for some people, you're, setting aside financial for certain things. And this is just one of them. You're just if it's like I say this, we have gone into these subscriptions on
Yeah,
all shapes and forms, and whether it's like, again, you want a cleaner to come clean you can go into an app, get
yeah,
a cleaner to come, and same thing. It's like there's ways for you to better your lives or just to give back some of your life
yeah,
through these different elements, and you just have to be willing enough to look for the right one that fits your lifestyle. So I definitely feel like Tiny Spoon has a wonderful head on its shoulders with you at the helm and moving in the right direction. So I have no fears for you. I think that there's going to be a great big boom for you guys, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck and continue forward with doing so. And I hope our audience can help you just get a little bit better, a little bit more of that you know, grassroots effort of having people talk about you. I hope our audience is just like shouting you out from the rooftops.
yeah.
That being said, this is the opportunity for you to promote the business. Let everyone know where they can find you online and just again, let everyone know where they can find Tiny Spoon.
Yeah, so we're at tinyspoonchef.com. You can find us there. We have a great nutritional newsletter and we send out fun stuff all the time. On Instagram, we're at Tiny Spoon Chef and TikTok, and we're on Facebook. And on Instagram, we do a lot of like giveaways and stuff, but we also do a lot of charitable work. So there's always fun kind of content there. That's probably our richest sort of social media space. But
Awesome.
you get to read about the chefs and see the fun things that we're creating and good things we're eating. And we'll also let you know when we're coming to town so you can let us know your favorite places to check out to eat because we always have our eating pants on.
Nice, awesome. Glad to hear it. Before we go, you can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. Social media wise, Finding Arizona Podcast under everything. And we end every conversation with a kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. And we will see you next time.